Mathew, Matt Granite, today we celebrate your life, a life well lived. We come together in community as family and friends to grieve, to mourn the loss of a son, a husband, a friend, a colleague, and many others. Let me grow so quiet that I hear the private conversations of crows as they fly by my window. Let me be so open that I see with different eyes this world born fresh again at dawn. I wish to take none of this for granted, nor the miracle it is to breathe, nor the wonder that I can choose between truth and a fearful view of life. May wisdom and insight guide me on my way today. Welcome to the world of Matt Granite. This anonymous quote is just one of several that we're going to share with you today. The music and the words that framed his life and guided him on his journey of 48 plus years. In this service, you will hear Matt's favorite songs, writings by sages, poets, gurus. All of this he carried in his phone. The music and lyrics also of the Grateful Dead. During this day for celebration and remembrance, our intense and heightened emotions of sadness, of anger, uncertainty are ever present. And the question is, and has been, how do we say goodbye to someone who's been so integral to our lives? We loved him, he loved us. And so, through the memories of our shared lives, we will find our way into the feelings of laughter and joy and hope from all that is ahead in longing for what will not be. He is gone too soon. We weren't ready to lose him. As we close out 2022, and at the end of each year, we pause to remember those who have left us during the year. And every one of us has lived in the losses of loved ones. I'm reminded of that quote, life is full of comings and goings, and for everything we take with us, we leave a part of us behind. Our reality is that we want more. We were not ready to let them go. A poignancy of life is that it gives no guarantees. A mother who believed that her son would live beyond her lifetime. A wife who envisioned many more years with her soulmate. Friends and colleagues who anticipated more times together in work and fun. Matt lived in the comings and goings of our lives, and we were connected to him. One of his quotes was from Pema Chodron: "To be fully alive, fully human, and completely awake is to be continually thrown out of the nest. To live fully is to be always in no man's land, to experience each moment as completely new and fresh. To live is to be willing to die over and over again. This renewal of life everlasting." And Matt lived fully. What can you say about those who live life on their terms? Matt was not a self-described religious individual, and yet he was guided by the words of Ram Dass, Pema Chodron, Carl Sagan, and the Grateful Dead. He lived a life of spiritualness through his beliefs, his relationships, and his views of the world. There was a recent comment on Facebook upon his passing. Sometimes someone walks into your life who makes a profound difference. Mathew Granite was one of those people. His instinctive wisdom, empathy for others, and a passionate love of family and friends, along with a brilliant financial mind, was magical. He had a natural gift of uplifting your spirits and reminding you to be grateful and mindful in everyday activities. Other comments on Facebook: he was a beam of light in this world. Your warmth will be missed. Matt was a selfless man with an awesome outlook on life. He was a one-of-a-kind guy. The world was much better because of you. You provided encouraging words on hard days. Matt had a big heart. He was a generous and amazing man. Matt was soul. He loved to listen to the Grateful Dead. He traveled the country listening to the Grateful Dead. Songs on his phone. He adored sunrises and sunsets, being in nature, being at the mountains and hiking with his dogs, being at the ocean. He loved being with friends, enjoying golf, Penn State, the Flyers, snowboarding, yoga, concerts. His list of adventures and joys in life are long. He was passionate about helping others and giving back to the community. And after the death of his brother Shane, he co-founded the Sherman Foundation in his brother's memory to help those who were struggling with addictions and PTSD. And then there's his soulmate, Kayla. I've lost you, Kayla. I don't know where you are. Soulmate Kayla. I had an opportunity to meet Kayla the other day. Beautiful soul. It just all comes together in how they shared their soul journey, which she shared with me, started 15 years ago. And I thought about some of the ways in which we describe a soulmate. The words of Maya Angelou, "In all the world there is no heart for me like yours. In the world there is no love for you like mine." And from Edgar Casey, "We are attracted to another person at a soul level, not because that person is our unique complement, but because by being with that individual, we are somehow provided with an impetus to become whole ourselves." The Grateful Dead song, "Standing on the Moon," which I didn't know before I met Kayla, but I've listened to it many times. And the lyrics are just profound, they're haunting. And this was the song that played when they got engaged. "Standing here upon the moon, I watch it all roll by, all roll by. Standing on the moon with nothing else to do, a lovely view of heaven, but I'd rather be with you. Standing on the moon, I see a shadow on the sun. Standing on the moon, the stars go fading one by one. I hear a cry of victory and another of defeat. A scrap of age-old lullaby down some forgotten street. Standing on the moon, but I'd rather be with you. Somewhere in San Francisco on a back porch in July, just looking up at heaven and his crescent in the sky. Standing on the moon with nothing left to do. A lovely view of heaven, but I'd rather be with you. Be with you. All you could ever see and do is right here with you, standing on the moon."
There's a little prayer beside me. Someone playing it long ago. Oh, Lord, standing still, crimson rain and indigo. Oh, Lord, standing still, crimson rain and indigo.
past is just a story, and the future is just a story. All that matters is right now. This moment is really all that we have. Make sure you are enjoying it.
Matt's passion for life was equal to the love that he put out into the world. The base of his love was from his family. As he grew up in the many years, and you've been able to see in the photo montage, all of that love that he brought out into the world. He loved his family. He treasured his mom, Jaqueline, sister Lisa. The love for his work, the caring deeply and valuing his client relationships, his business manager, colleagues, employees, held a large part of his heart. And so we're going to take this time and we're going to hear from Ty, who will share his stories with Matt.
Thanks, Tom. Appreciate it. Good afternoon. My name is Ty O'Neill, and I am one of Maddie's friends, a friend to him just like each and every one of you. I'm honored to share a couple words about Maddie here today, and I very much appreciate this opportunity. First, I would like to express my condolences to Maddie's wife, Kayla, his mom, Jackie, his sister, Lisa, and his stepmom, Poppy. Maddie was also the godfather to my now 14-year-old daughter, Molly Madeline, who proudly has a picture of Maddie and I as her screensaver on her iPhone. So now we know we really made it. She guards that phone like a vault. But I would also like to send my condolences to Maddie's business colleagues and clients. You are all very important to him. His business and clients are being left in very capable and dependable hands. There are no words at all to even remotely express the loss of Maddie. His presence and his smile were both undeniable and profound. Once you had a connection with him, it was a true connection. A friend for life automatically to many, and a savior to some, as he assisted those in the world of addiction through his nonprofit foundation. He meant a lot to a lot of people. Never sought the attention, never sought the recognition, never sought the publicity for the work that he did. He just did it. Maddie and I were introduced to each other early on during our first year at Dickinson College through a lifelong childhood friend. Thank you, Willie Bub. And although we were in separate fraternities, I always considered Maddie a brother, and I always will. Friends can be and are family. Someone much smarter and prettier once told me, and she was right. Maddie is a part of my family, and we all miss him terribly. Of course, I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge that we all have stories of having a good time with Maddie in one way, shape, or form, either individually or as a group. That memory brings, I'm sure, a quick smile to your face without any effort or advanced thought. It sure does for me. I have several experiences that I will vaguely and briefly state for you here today, because Maddie would never forgive me if I didn't. One would be our infamous trip to Las Vegas that preceded the movie The Hangover by approximately 10 years. Our trip was more eventful than the movie itself, and I believe we're still not allowed in the state of Nevada to this day. Shane was on that trip as well, so it was a fun one. We had countless trips to the shore, countless golf trips, simply watching the Flyers or spending time with one another. I don't believe I've laughed harder in my life than during my time with him and others, many of which are in this room here today. Those words and memories, while relatable and funny, do not even begin to scratch the surface of Maddie was really about, what his true soul was. And this is the most important part, everyone. His grit, determination, and ability to relate to just about anyone or any situation were always outstanding qualities of his. He was someone you could rely upon completely. He cared, he was there, he was a trusted advisor, he was a shoulder to cry on, he was a steady hand. He was my, I need to run this past my guy. I still reach out on my phone every once in a while to text him. I just did it the other day, and I can't anymore, and that's something I've only come to realize it's not okay. We were here for each other and there for each other and talked through each other's challenges and obstacles as life went on. Not many major life decisions were made on either end without a text or a call. Am I reading this wrong, or am I just an idiot? I would ask him. You're an idiot. And then we would talk it through. But he did that for a lot of people in this room. He did it willingly, and he did it with ease. He's one of the smarter guys I knew, and I relied on him and him on me. Look, once upon a time, did he like to have a good time? Sure, who cares? That will never, ever define, ever, who Matt Granite was, how he conducted himself, how he treated those he loved and cared for, or the person that he became. Kayla, you meant the world to him, and I credit you directly. Your empathy, your touch, your emotional intelligence and sense of being with helping him see the life he wanted to live and doing that with him and the dogs. He loved you beyond words. You've been infinitely strong during the aftermath of Maddie's passing. I'm not quite sure how you're doing it, but you are. Not many people can bring everyone together like Maddie did. Ironically enough, Maddie brought all of us together here today. I was very hesitant to offer a cliche or a quote. I never really thought formalities were befitting of Maddie. But one stuck out and rings very true that I wanted to share with you. People will forget what you said. People will forget what you did. But people will never forget how you made them feel. Maddie made a lot of people feel good. Some who didn't otherwise feel good about themselves. Some who didn't think they were even worthy of feeling good. And some that just needed to pick me up. He was always able to transcend those situations for people and make them smile and feel good. We love you, buddy, and Godspeed. We will miss you very much. Save me a seat. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ty. And now we're going to hear from Chris.
That was a great time. Maya Angelou, I believe that was a quote from Maya Angelou. Awesome. So Matt has stood where I'm standing twice before, where I've seen him. Once was with Shane, his brother, and made a wonderful speech honoring him. And then the second was just earlier this year. His dad John passed away, and again, just an amazing speech, and the heart and soul he put into it was amazing. So I am not the orator that Matt was. But I'm honored to stand before you and talk about my friend, my one-of-a-kind compadre. And maybe he's listening now, and I would really love to make him proud. Matt lived a huge life. And I measure that by the massive number of people in his life with whom he had a meaningful relationship. And I think this room sort of speaks to that. If you feel like you were an acquaintance of Matt's, you were more than that. If you were a client or colleague of Matt's, to him, you were much more than that. If you were his friend, you knew it, and the capacity for love in his heart was boundless. It has always been incredible to me. The ability he had to just love and care for such a massive amount of people led him to do something he turned out to be terrific at: bring people together. He wanted the people in his life to know and see all the other people in his life. He wanted you to see them as he saw them. Loved ones, different perspectives and backgrounds, shared experiences and interests, with the mindset of, I like this person, I bet you're going to like them too. So my own personal journey, my name's Chris DeVito. I went to Dickinson College. That's where I met Matt in August of '92, two of a number of clearly overwhelmed freshman football players trying to fit into not only campus life, but also just, 2-a-days in August is a little tough when you're 18. We were friends early on, and that friendship grew and deepened over 4 years. Matt brought me into his family, first spending time with Shane and later with Jackie and Lisa, eventually also with John and Poppy. And like with Matt, the reception I got and the relationship I built with all of you, with the family, was just love. Over the years, Matt and I would spend a good amount of time together, or a lot of time together, a multitude of weekends throughout every year, and some in PA, some in New York, and then some mini vacations mixed in there as well. I was not on that Vegas trip, by the way. During the weekends spent together, particularly in PA, we never or rarely made plans outside of maybe the Penn State game I would go to once a year. And his idea was always just include me in whatever he had planned going on, right? Whatever he had set up or whatever plans he had made with other friends, just included me in that. So there's so many people that I met through Matt and have become friendly with, those different perspectives and backgrounds, just mixing shared experience and interests. This was one of the gifts that was on display so regularly, bringing people together. So while I don't discount that I might have played a role in developing some of those relationships, I know many of you here have felt the same thing throughout the years. He was proud to be our friend, our brother, and your son, and your stepson, and so very proud to be your husband. Matt lived without fear, and that is a trait I've always admired. Most of us cannot say this, and I know I cannot. Living without fear can have some costs, and Matt experienced that at times. But Matt was someone who understood we'd get one shot at this life, and he was not going to waste it being afraid to live and love. It's hard to speak about Matt without including Shane. Brothers and best friends who on the surface could seem so different, but their capacity for love and acceptance of others, whoever you are, no judgment, acceptance, and appreciation, were identical. There was something inside both of them. I always thought of it as a light that was beautiful to behold. 2 quick anecdotes I'll share, mostly because they make me smile, but 20 years ago, Matt sold me a set of golf clubs, actually it was a little over 20 years ago, $100. So some of you here will know that my golf game is at best laughable, but Matt was always super patient, right? He would play with me often enough and just would suffer through. I would think to myself, he must really like me to put up with this, but he did. Anyway, back to the clubs. $100, complete set of Ping Zing 2. It was his dad's at one time, given to him when John upgraded to some newer clubs. When Matt then was looking to upgrade, I said to him, hey, I don't know what clubs I should buy. Can you help me? He's like, well, do you want these? Sell for $100. I said, sure, great, no problem. No idea what they were worth. I'm sure they were worth a lot more than that. But the point is, I've been able to share in a moment a few times where I've never used another set of clubs. I bring them along on the golf trips we would have, and if I played with Matt and John, I could share in, hey, Pop, look at these, remember these? And pulls up a club and he's like, wow, cool, that's mine. Or, a few years later, like, wow, you still have those? Like, yeah, yep. Obviously, I'm never giving up those clubs. An image I have of Matt that I think about very often is just a handful of years ago. A few of us were at the Sandbar in Ocean City, Maryland, karaoke night. And I was on stage singing Southern Cross by Crosby, Stills, and Nash. Matt, Shep, and Ty are back at the pool table. Matt was apparently running the table, doing well. The rendition I was belting out must have just been awesome, because at some point they started rushing the stage and were like cheering me on, and just, I'm standing there and I'm looking down and they're just so happy. Just the expression on their face was pure joy, and it's something I think about quite often. It's pure happiness. That video actually is available for purchase. Shep will take your orders later today. I thought about Matt, and one thing I always thought is there's the dichotomy of Mathew John Granite. Part philanthropist, part pirate. He was a poet who could have made a living as a beat sports writer. He was a shoulder to lean on, and also a jokester who could gut you with one line or just a look. He was profoundly sad with the loss of Shane and later John, and he could sometimes really lose himself in that sadness. But it was always his joy in what he and Kayla together had built and were building, and in being in the company of loved ones and friends that always brought him back from that sadness. So Matt leaves each of us with a hole, and it's one we'll never be able to fill. We'll never be the same. But we were lucky, though. We were lucky to have him in our lives, lucky to have been influenced and inspired by him, lucky to have loved him and be loved by him. Thanks.
Thank you, Chris. There are many more stories in this room that you'll be able to share with each other, and after the service, you're welcome to come to the mic and share your stories also. I just have two brief stories about Matt that I remember, and was the first time I ever met Matt. And I met, I met Matt and Lisa in preparing for Shane's service. And Matt was very distraught. And he said to me, I'm going to tell some stories about Shane. I need to say some things. And I know the things I'm going to say you can't say in a church. And I said, Matt, at Unity, all are welcome. You can say whatever you please. And so when he had finished his stories with Shane, he looked at me and he said, was that okay? It was very okay. And the other thing that I remember most from Matt was he had attended a Christmas Eve service that I was doing. And at Unity, we talk about the metaphysical interpretation of the Christmas story. And, we talk about the faith of Mary and the understanding of Joseph and the wisdom of the wise men and the love of the shepherds, etc. And at the end of the service, and Matt was walking out, and he said, I have never heard the Christmas story told that way. I really like that version. And I said, there's more to that, Matt, because it was a different way in which he could bring into his spiritualness, understanding from that metaphysical perspective. Another quote, one of his favorite quotes from Ram Dass. When you go into the woods and you look at trees, you see all these different trees. And some of them are bent, and some of them are straight, and some of them are evergreens, and some of them are whatever. And you look at the tree and you just allow it. You appreciate it. You see why it is the way it is. You sort of understand that it didn't get enough light, so it turned that way. And you don't get all emotional about it. You just allow it. You appreciate the tree. The minute you get near humans, you lose all that. And you're constantly saying, you're to this, or I'm to this, or that judging mind comes in. And so I practice turning people into trees, which means appreciating them just the way they are. The stories of Chris and Ty really bring that home in the world of Matt. One of the other songs that I'll encourage you to listen to is called The Eyes of the World, another Grateful Dead song. So much about vision, so much about compassion, so much about who Matt was. And from this song, you'll hear phrases that, but the heart has its seasons. Sometimes we live in no particular way but our own. Sometimes we walk alone. Sometimes the songs that we all hear are just the songs of our own. And we wake up to find that we are the eyes of the world. The heart has its beaches, its homeland and thoughts of its own. Wake now. Discover that you are the song that the morning brings. But the heart has its seasons, its evenings and songs of its own. So in his going, Matt leaves us with his deep soul and love for others. And the words of Carl Sagan that connects the world to humanity, Matt leaves us with. Look again at that dot. That's here. That's home. That's us. On it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you ever heard of, every human being who ever was, lived out their lives. The aggregate of our joy and suffering. Thousands of confident religions, ideologies, and economic doctrines. Every hunter and forager, every hero and coward, every creator and destroyer of civilization, every kind of king and peasant, every young couple in love, every mother and father, hopeful child, inventor and explorer, every teacher of morals, every corrupt politician, every superstar, every supreme leader, every saint and sinner in the history of our species lived here on a mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam. To me, it underscores our responsibility to deal more kindly with one another and to preserve and cherish the pale blue dot, the only home we've ever known. Matt is gone now. His physical self no longer walks this earth. He lived a full life and had but length of years. Life is not measured by the breaths we take, but by the moments that take our breath away. Our grieving will continue. We are sad. We are angry. We became aware of the missing conversations that are unique to only two individuals. We were not ready to let him go. We wanted more time with him to do much more. And yet, it is life's reminder that longevity is not guaranteed. We have only to make all those moments count with our humanity. And so while his kind and generous and loving heart is now silent, his love remains indelibly imprinted on our hearts. The infinity of his love will hold you forever. And so he leaves us with this challenge, his beautiful outlook on life and death, how to get the best out of life while we are here on earth. And a final quote from his phone from Lao Tzu: to the mind that is still, the whole universe surrenders. We will close our celebration today with the song Be Still by a group called The Fray. It was the song that Matt and Lisa had requested at the service for their brother Shane. And it is requested here today by his mother, Jaqueline.
The past is just a story, and the future is just a story. All that matters is right now. This moment is really all that we have. Make sure you're enjoying it.
Be still and know that I'm with you. Be still and know still and know. When darkness comes upon you and covers you with fear and shame, be still and know that I'm with you, and I will say your name. If terror falls upon your bed and sleep no longer come, remember all the words I said. Be still and know. And when you go through the valley and the shadow comes down from the hill, if morning never comes to be still, be still, be still. If you forget the way to go and lose where you came from, if no one is standing beside you, be still and know I am. Be still and know that I'm with you. Be still and know I am.
Thank you, Matt Granite, for being a part of our lives. And so in celebration of Matt today, let us all stand and give him a standing ovation for a beautiful man, life well lived.
So my name is Ken Diltz. Matt Granite was clearly a good friend to all of us, and very, very good friend to me. First of all, just like Ty and Chris, I want to offer my condolences to Jackie, love you, Lisa, Kayla, and everyone, Aunt Poppy, excuse me, and all of Granite's cousins and aunts and uncles that are here. He was a light. Granite and I talked about different lines in songs over the years. Obviously, he was very, very into music. One of our favorites was a song by the Counting Crows, Mrs. Potter's Lullaby. It goes, if you've never stared off into the distance, then your life is but a shame. Well, Matt gotta take off the glasses already. Was one to stare off into the distance a lot. Whether he was at a Penn State game, the beach, or his beloved mountains, he always took everything in and appreciated what he had. I met Matt around 15 years ago, of course at Flinch's. Our friend John Fenstermacher introduced us. We quickly hit it off through our shared love of Penn State football and golf, and just of love of life itself. John, who I went to Penn State games with for 10 years, sadly passed away of cancer 12 years ago, but kept his tickets for his daughter and I to use. Granite, my son Kenny, my wife Kathy, and Kenny's friends, and numerous others have gone to at least 2 to 3 Penn State games every year, and our nirvana, known as parking spot 8830. The tailgates and camaraderie were legendary, and Granite, of course, was the life of everyone. I did most of the cooking, and would always bring way too many burgers and hot dogs. As Granite would say, co-ed's gotta eat, Kenny. The day of Joe Paterno's last game 10 years ago in October, it was just Matt and I went up to the game as it was snowing like crazy. We were heading up 322 in his big SUV, going about 70, 80 miles an hour with 4 to 5 inches of snow on the ground. I said, Matt, slow down. In typical Granite fashion, he's like, I got this, Kenny. He went around a turn. We started going down sideways over the embankment, spin around, and thankfully didn't flip over. We come to a stop. I look over at him. He's got that Granite smirk. He says, okay, I'll slow down. Granite thought every good offensive play by our opponent was holding. It's holding, Kenny, it's holding. Didn't matter. It didn't matter if it was a clean play or not. Refs are on Michigan, Kenny. He also wasn't a big fan of James Franklin the last couple years. Guy's making $80 billion, Kenny, and he can't make a play call. Needless to say, there's a lot of people in this room that came, Chris, Ty, Luke Harris, all my son's friends, a lot of Granite's friends that came to those tailgates over the years and had a fantastic time. Whew. Golf was another passion that we shared. Lost some money to those clubs right there. Any competitive golfer loved to play with Granite, as he loved the game, but he loved to laugh and throw one-liners at his opponents and sometimes even his partner. I played in 3 or 4 member guests with him at his beloved Harrisburg Country Club, which is why I'm wearing this shirt, and it truly was the best of times. When he played at other golf courses, yes, even here at West Shore, he would refer to them as dog tracks. And they cut down all those trees at West Shore, Kenny. He loved the God Love You Foundation and the tournament they put on every year. I was blessed to play in his group for the last 10 years. Every year he would say, Dilts, we're going to win it this year. We came close many years, but finally broke through and won it in 2019. We successfully defended our title in 2020. As much as he wanted to three-peat, our good friend Mike McCauley, who a lot of you knew, had passed away the previous year of a heart attack. And his son Lachlan, I didn't see if Lachlan and Patty are here today, had always played golf with his dad, Mike, in the God Love You tournament. So Granite called me one day and the other 2 guys on the team, and he said, we're splitting up the team this year. Lachlan's playing with me. That's who he was. So, we're starting a golf tournament. I'm just in the preliminary phases, but September 18th at Harrisburg Country Club for the Sherman Foundation, the first annual Mathew J. Granite golf tournament. And let me say, that will be a fun day. Granite always envied what I had in my relationship with my lovely bride, Kathy. He was the most charismatic person I've ever met, as I'm sure most of you will attest to. He was like the Dean Martin of central Pennsylvania. He just couldn't find that soulmate he wanted to spend the rest of his life with. Then along came Kayla. Kathy and I have known Kayla since, as a 17-year-old, she started working at Fletcher's with our daughter. She became like a daughter to us. When her and Granite first started dating, some people thought she was too young for him. We both thought it was perfect. Kayla has an old hippie soul, and God knows Granite didn't act his age. They were fantastic together. When COVID hit, some people panicked. Granite adapted. They bought a mountain house in Boone, North Carolina. 2 beautiful puppies named Memphis and Soul, or as my bride calls them, Houston and Soul. They got engaged, of course, at a Dead & Company show in Mexico. Then got married last November on their beloved mountain. They and their dogs spent the next 2 years camping in Assateague on the beach weeks at a time, hiking and camping in the Blue Ridge Mountains, and all the while Granite ran his business mobily like the champion he was. All of us here were blessed to have known him. Kayla knows that we will always be here for her. In closing, if I can get this to work, I want to play one of his favorite Dead songs, Ripple. Sing along if you'd like, especially the chorus at the end. It's a very fitting song.
If my words did glow with the gold of sunshine, and my tunes were played on the harp unstrung, would you hear my voice come through the music? Would you hold it near as it were your own? It's a hand-me-down. The thoughts are broken. Perhaps they're better left unsung. I don't know. Don't really care. Let there be songs to fill the air. Ripple in still water when there is no pebble tossed, nor wind to blow. Reach out your hand. If your cup be empty, if your cup is full, may it be again, let it be known. There is a fountain that was not made by the hands of men. There is a road, no simple highway between the dawn and the dark of night. And if you go, no one may follow. That path is for your steps alone. Ripple in still water when there is no pebble tossed, no wind to blow. You choose to lead, must follow. But if you fall alone. If you should stand, then who's to guide you? If I knew the way, I would take you home. La da da da, la da da da, la da da. La da 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 da, la da da da, la da da da,
Love you, Matt Granite.
Thank you.
My name is Brian Ludwig. I've been friends with Maddie for the last 25, 30 years. And given Matt is a poet, I figured I'd take a shot at a little poetry in his honor. For all of us here today, the last 2 months have been the most difficult of times. I will attempt to lift spirits with fond memories, some laughs, and a few rhymes. It all started for me when I was about 20 years old, to the best of my fuzzy knowledge. It was Memorial Day at the beach when Ty and Willie brought along a pal from Dickinson College. At the time, little did I know that I'd be meeting one of the best guys on the planet. The newbie made his mark with great hanging and ball busting. Of course, it was Matt Granite. Between Stone Harbor and other get-togethers, Maddie became a core part of our crew. The two of us bonded on late-night drives to play blackjack and AC for just a quick shoe. And they were never quick. When it came to following sports and picking the winning team, Maddie was no rookie. Well, I'm just being nice, because back in the day, he lost a shitload, and I would know as his bookie. Maddie sure did bitch about the NFL, but that wouldn't stop him from laying 4 points on the Bears. He laughed his ass off when a guy in this room paid off his gambling debt with leather chairs. True story. Maddie's golf game was strong enough to win our tourney in the early years. He had a healthy obsession. And shockingly, when he began to lose, he was the first to call the scorekeeping into question. I fondly think about things he loved regarding his beloved Flyers. There is no debate. And on the list of loves were Nat Sherman's, The Grotto, Ocean City, and Penn State. Then there's GL Capital, the dogs, yoga, snowboarding on Beach Mountain. He was living the life. But the clear top of the list was Matt's number one love, Kayla, his incomparable wife. On Maddie's last weekend, he shared details of his happy married life and coyly smiled. He then went on to share his excitement to build out their family and have a child. Granite had such clarity on his business, his health, his family, and his future. Numbingly ironic, I think. But we all know Maddie wouldn't want us to cry over him. He'd rather we celebrate his life over a drink. So that is what we are doing here today, paying tribute to the guy who lit up the world with his smile, and thanking him for letting us all connect with him in a way that was meaningful and worthwhile. Everyone's life in this room was enriched due to the uniquely special guy that we all knew. So with that, let us raise our glasses together in his honor. Cheers, Maddie. We love you.
I want to thank all of you for coming. And I want you to know that I would rather be anywhere than where I am right now. Maddie was supposed to do this for me, and he would have done a much better job than I will do. When I tried to think about what I would say, I just kept hearing from West Side's story, how do you solve a problem like Maria? And I think, how do you solve a problem like my Mathew? I loved him with all my heart, but he was not my easiest child. They always wondered why Lisa, he and Shane wondered why Lisa never got in trouble. And it's a little hard to reprimand someone who doesn't do anything wrong. So I'm sure I don't know everything about Lisa's life, but I remember that I used to tell the kids that it was time to clean up their room. And one day, Lisa's was an absolute and utter mess. And it wasn't very long, and she called me back, and it was beautiful. And I said, wow, how did you put everything away so quickly? And she said, oh, that would have taken me a long time. I just shoved it all under the bed. Now with Shaney, when I tell him to clean up, he'd say, okay. It would take me an hour or so to realize that he didn't do it. But he said okay, so it was easy for me. Matt, on the other hand, if you said it was time to clean up the room, he had to go visit Chris, and he had to see him because they were working on a school project. Or he had to ride his bike, but no matter what, there was always an argument with Matt. I will say that he grew up to be a fine young man, and I was especially fond when his clients would tell me at the Christmas service how kind he was, how considerate he was, how patient. I never saw the patience, but I'm trusting. And one thing I knew about both of my boys is that they were kind, they were compassionate, they would do anything for anyone. And that's the way I raised them. They were intelligent and they were caring. But one of the things that Matt did for all of us is he lived life to the fullest. And I'm telling you, from golf trips, multiple golf trips per year, they used to go to the March Madness all the time. That was several years running, but that died out. The Penn State games, the Eagles games, the Flyers games, the beach. He loved the beach, especially Assateague, and the mountains. And while Lisa and Shane and I tried to get him to hike when he was younger, he wanted no parts of that. But now all of a sudden he loves hiking, so I don't know. He loved the Grateful Dead and Kayla, of course, and he went all over creation and Mexico to see the Grateful Dead. So he definitely lived life to the fullest. The depth of this loss is unimaginable for Kayla, for Lisa, and for me. But I'm very glad that he enjoyed his life. I just wish he was still here to enjoy it with us. Thank you so much for coming and for sharing in his life and for caring about my beautiful boy.
My name is Trinka, and I was a client of Matt's for almost 20 years. And from the moment I met him, he did almost seem like family to me. We had a special needs daughter who was just 4 weeks, about 4 weeks younger than Matt. And early on in our relationship, she had developed some orthopedic issues, and I could not go into his office for meetings, so he would come to my house for meetings. And our daughter Erin loved the men. She loved her Matt. And we would sit at the kitchen table and he'd have all of his papers out there. And I'm guessing it was a BlackBerry. I don't know. It's that long ago that he would come to the house. And she would have her papers there and her pens and pencils. And to look at her, you would think she actually knew what he was saying. I barely knew what he was saying. I couldn't understand that financial stuff. But then she would take her little fingers and she'd walk her fingers across the table to close to the BlackBerry. And she'd almost get to it and he would look at her and he'd say, "Erin, you know that's mine, that's not yours." And she would giggle and she'd pull her hand back. But that was a ritual. Every time he came to the house that we sat at that table, she was always trying to get to his equipment. But she was crazy about him. And when she passed 5 years ago, in fact this month, he was one of the first ones that spoke at her memorial service. And he shared this same story with all the people that were at the service for her. And then when my dad moved in with me and had some dementia and did not know where his finances were or what he had, Matt just took over and researched and saved me a lot of heartache. He was a hard worker, no doubt about that. He knew his stuff. And then with my husband, Matt was kind enough to invite Dave a couple different times to his golf tournaments. And Dave used to call the office And in the middle of the morning, and he'd talk to the women, and he'd say, "Is Matt there?" And they'd say, "No, not yet, he's not in yet." And my husband would say, "Well, when he gets off the golf course, do you think maybe he could give me a call? I don't know when that might be, but just tell him I called." But Matt always just held such a special place in our hearts, and I think that'll be a legacy that I will remember about Matt, that he was just so kind and cherished all of his friends, his family, his clients, and he definitely and truly was one of the good guys. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Thad Eisenhower. Every story that's been told here today makes me feel like I was there, That's the kind of guy Matt was, as we all know. Very inclusive of everybody. My relationship with Matt started a little differently. He was a friend of my brother's, and losing my brother, he came to the funeral, and we had talked, and he had told me how much of an impact my brother had made on his life. And I had known Matt, but being 10 years older, running in a different circle of people, we knew many of the same people, but we weren't really connected. And we continued to talk. He was always inquisitive of how I was feeling or what I was feeling. My brother died from a long battle of PTSD coming back from Afghanistan. And he was generally interested in how that affected him and me and everybody. But little did we know, just 6 months later, he'd lose his brother to the same type of addiction. And a few weeks after the funeral of Shane, we met and we started something that I never thought imaginable. Because he was at a point in his life where all he would talk about is how much he wanted to now give back and how much he wanted to help people. And because we had something in common, we decided to do it together. So, he said, let's start a foundation and let's really try to make a difference for other families and people that are struggling with addiction and PTSD and other things. And so we did, and along with a lot of his close friends, started the board, and the Sherman Foundation was found. And the first couple years, we got into all kinds of things as we learned the ins and outs of running a foundation and tried to figure out, where can we most impact people? Well, I think we both found out that the best place we could impact people was by being present, meeting with people, one-on-one or in small groups of people. And we started doing that. And what we found was that all our stories together started helping each other. People came to our groups. Jackie would come to our groups. Kayla would come to the groups. And we would sit and talk with people that lost their kids and they lost, their significant others. Or people would come who were still in active addiction. And he was the best, the absolute best at making that person feel so special and making them feel like, hey, there's people that love you, we care about you, and we're here to help you. And Matt never saw anybody by how much money they had or the clothes they wore, where they lived, or anything else. Matt saw each and every person as an individual trying to make it in the world, just like he was. And, through that, we've done some amazing things through the foundation, some of which I'm extremely proud of. They may seem small, but providing financial stability to the drug court down at Cumberland County Courthouse, where we take care of many insignificant things to some people, paying for rides, clothing, haircuts, hotels, whatever we can do, because when people are in active addiction, it's the smallest thing. People always wonder, why did they do that? Why did they go back? Why did they go back to using? Well, sometimes it can be the simplest thing. And we wanted to try and eliminate those things from people's lives. We also have supplied many financial resources to people to get into rehab and other organizations that support those types of things. So during COVID, that kind of shut down somewhat, and it became more of an independent mission. We were meeting individually with people, and even through the pandemic, we were able to partner and start the Central Pennsylvania Veterans Coalition, which is a group that started to take care of veterans' needs coming home with PTSD. And even though COVID was happening, we were able to, and I think to this day, we've never had a situation where a veteran has come into this organization, which is up to 23 members now. 23 different organizations participate in the coalition. And when a veteran comes with a need, that need gets vetted and put out to all the different organizations. And we've been able to successfully help at each and every person that's come into that coalition. And I'm proud of that, and I know Matt's proud of that. But if I can leave you all with anything today, I think Matt would want you to really take a look at yourself. Take a look at where you are. Where do you live? What community are you living in right now? What can you give of yourself? That's coming from a man who gave it all. His whole life, his heart, his soul. But the people in this room have unlimited resources to help so many people, and I'm sure many of you are. And I say thank you for that. But if I can leave you with anything, make 2023 a year where you actively look around where you are and have a greater impact than what you ever thought you could possibly have. And by doing that, you'll keep the memory of Matt Granite alive forever and ever. So thank you very much. And thanks for everything. Thanks for being such a wonderful mom to him. Kayla, we'll see you in the mountains somewhere sometime soon. But thanks for everybody. But just keep that with you. Do something. Make it a difference. Make a difference and keep Matt's spirit alive. Thank you.
I wanted to share a little something. I first met Matt a few years ago. A friend and I were trying to start a recovery Dharma meeting in the area because there weren't enough options for recovery meetings. And the guy that was supposed to help us put it together bailed. And my friend knew Matt, and she said, I know somebody that can help us. So we met him, and that was the first time I met him. And I mean, as the rest of you know, the rest is history, but he did not hesitate and helped us to start it. And it's still going today. It's in Hummelstown. And we've hosted a few events, Holistic Recovery Day up at Negley Park, that he and Kayla have always participated in, and it's been amazing. The first time I really knew, other than just meeting him, how just amazing of a person he was such a simple thing, but we were trying to figure out how to get enough water because we didn't know how many people were going to be there, and he said, just go, I forget the name of the place. He told me to call them and tell them that we were having an event for a nonprofit and they would just give us a whole bunch of water bottles for free. And I just was like, wow, what an amazing thing ever. It was such a big deal, and it just speaks to how impactful some of the things that he did could be, even though they seem so simple, just giving someone information. There's only a few people I've met who share the quality of seeing the inherent good or the child within of any person they come across, no matter what is happening in their lives. As a person who possesses that quality, it can be really horrible and difficult to navigate. But Kayla and Matt are two of the people that I've met that also share that quality. And from meeting them, the impact that they had on me was to really embrace that quality. And it's okay to see the good in people, no matter what. And when I got sober, I just really wanted to do and help and it was hard to find people that were really doing that. And when I met Matt and Kayla, I knew that I kind of had found people with similar interests in heart. My grandmother passed earlier this year, and I learned her favorite poem, which I didn't know. I learned later in life that she had a similar wrestling with faith as I and many of us do, which was comforting. And the poem was so interesting, and I have yet to meet anyone who knows of it. But it speaks to what I feel at this point in life is the essence of true faith in whatever it is that you have faith in. And that to have faith in any higher power or God is to have faith in fellow humanity and treat each person as such. And there is no person I've met who truly encompasses this than Matt. The poem is by Lee Hunt, and it's called Abu Ben Adhem. And it's not very long, I'll just read it. Abu Ben Adhem, may his tribe increase, awoke one night from a deep dream of peace, and saw within the moonlight in his room, making it rich and like a lily in bloom, an angel writing in a book of gold. Exceeding peace had made Ben Adhem bold, and to the presence in the room he said, "What writest thou?" The vision raised its head, and with a look made of all sweet accord answered, "The names of those who love the Lord." "And is mine one?" said Abu. "Nay, not so," replied the angel. Abu spoke more low, but cheerily still, and said, "I pray thee, then, write me as one that loves his fellow man." The angel wrote and vanished. The next night it came again with a great awakening light, and showed the names whom love of God had blessed, and lo, Ben Adhem's name led all the rest. And I really think that the meaning of that for me is to love any higher power or being or God of any kind is to know that all of us are that, and we should treat each other with that sentiment just as we would have faith in anything higher. We are the higher power. And I know he really did that in his life, and it impacted everyone so much. That is all. Thank you.
So I was kind of waiting for it to thin all the way out before I got up here. So it's been a struggle deciding whether or not I was going to speak today. A little bit of the reason is because I'm not very good at public speaking. I never do it, and I get pretty nervous. But the main reason is, emotionally, I wasn't sure if I'd make it through this. Also, how the hell do you condense 34 years of friendship into 5 or 6 minutes? It just seemed like an impossible task. So hopefully this short speech honors who Matt was as my friend, just a little bit. First off, I'd like to thank everybody for being here to celebrate the life of Mathew John Granite. For those of you that may not know me, my name is Tommy Bushman. Matt has been one of my best friends for over 3 decades. 34 years to be exact. So this has been absolutely devastating on so many levels for so many of us that loved Matt. It's been 68 days, and I still struggle to wrap my head around it. It's left an empty place in my heart, and it's tough to imagine a future where Matt's not in it. People say that time heals all wounds, and I'm sure that's true. But for those of us that were closest to Matt, I feel it's going to take quite a while for this pain to go away. Kayla, Jackie, and Lisa, I know there's nothing anyone can say or do to ease your pain right now, and my heart breaks for you all. Kayla, you were Matt's truest and best friend in this world. He was head over heels in love with you, and you were the sole reason that he's been the happiest I've ever seen him, and he will live on in your heart forever. Jackie and Lisa, you are two beautiful souls that do not deserve this. Life has robbed you for a second time, and it's horribly unfair. Matt had such a deep love and respect for you both, and the two of you helped to mold him into the amazing person that he was. I'm so sorry. Lisa, you will always have a brother in me. Jackie, you will always have a son in me. Kayla, I can't help you out with the husband thing. I don't think Colin would like that too much. But Matt was your best friend, and you always have a best friend in me. Poppy, I know you and Matt cared very deeply for one another, and I'm so sorry that you had to go through John's passing earlier in the year, and now Matt's passing. I hope someday you can smile and cherish all the wonderful time spent with John and Matt. I don't pretend to know what's next after this life, but John, Matt, and Shane lived their lives with pure passion and huge hearts. My hope is that they are together once again, probably busting each other's balls. So Matt and I met back in 1988 going into freshman year at CV, and he quickly became one of my best friends. Kayla, I don't even think you were a twinkle in your mom's eye at that point, right? So over the years, he became more than just a friend. He became my brother. His family became my family, and my family became his family. We've been there for each other through all of our highs, all of our lows, and everything in between. He was a fiercely loyal friend, witty, highly intelligent, charismatic, and man, did he have great hair or what. I never thought much of it when I had a full head of hair, but lately, dealing with my own hair loss, I've been totally jealous of that hair. I honestly don't think he lost one strand of hair in almost 49 years. And for those of us that knew him best, he was also a very skilled ball buster. He loved to throw those little jabs at you. Here's one that kind of stuck with me. So most of you know that Matt was an exceptional golfer. Me, on the other hand, not so much. We've golfed countless times together over the years, and during one of my not so great rounds, I had sunk my putt on 18 for like my 10th triple bogey of the day. And he looks at me with a straight face and says, "Jesus, Bushman, if this course was a par 95, you'd be a hell of a golfer." And then he burst into that ball-busting chuckle he had. Matt was amazing in so many ways, but he did have one major fault. I'm sure there's many of you here that would disagree, but he was an Eagles fan. Now, me being a Dallas fan, you can only imagine the banter that's gone back and forth between us for 34 years. Another best friend of ours, Eric Reed, is a Washington fan. So the three of us in the same division made for some great group texts. Our actual last text that we sent to each other were on Sunday, October 16th. The Eagles beat the Cowboys, or as Matt would always say, the Cowgirls. I think he had a little too much fun texting me that day. I would have loved these past few weeks leading up to the Christmas Eve game between the Eagles and Cowboys, because there would have been nonstop memes and hilarious texts busting on each other. And that's something I will miss very much. So as much as it pains me to say this, as long as the Eagles aren't playing my boys, I will be rooting for them, buddy. On Friday, September 23rd, we finally fit in a round of golf after both of us being crazy busy and traveling July, August, and into September. It was myself, Matt, and his business colleague and friend, Matt Shope. I didn't know it, but this would be the last time we would golf together. And the last time we would see each other. I'm sorry. I'm extremely thankful for that last round of golf with Matt. When I look back on it, it's pretty special to me because it was a beautiful day golfing and we had a nice goodbye. After our round, I put my clubs in my car and walked over to say goodbye and checked out his new Jeep. We shot the shit for a few minutes, talking about my Hilton Head trip coming up and his golf trip coming up. We made dinner plans for after his golf trip and talked about how we couldn't wait to break out our snowboards and hit the slopes. We knew we weren't going to see each other for a while, so we gave each other a hug. He said, "I love you, man." I said, "I love you too, buddy. See you soon." Those were our last words, spoken in person, and that will always put a smile on my face. After Matt's passing, Kayla gave me his putter. Kayla, that meant more to me than you will ever know. Thank you. His putter will forever be in my golf bag until the day I die. And Matt will forever be with me on the course.
What else can we say about the legend of Mathew Granite? He is poet, philosopher, philanthropist, friend, son, brother, husband, financier, guru, golfer, gambler, and yes, a smoker and a midnight toker. He is the interesting man we all want to be, but can't, because there will only ever be one Mathew Granite. Matt and Kayla grew their love in peaceful Appalachian wilderness. That's where they found their truth. In the words of the great American poet, Henry Thoreau, "I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life and see if I could not learn what it had to teach. And not when I came to die, discover that I had not lived." Well, buddy, you lived, my great friend, and forevermore you shall live in the hearts and minds of the countless people lucky enough to witness your living poetry. We thank you.